I mean,
I'm proud of you.
only took him 19 minutes.
You didn't give
Well,
up though.
it's a little embarrassing. As I went out there to take my headphones out, I was like, Angel, I've being the asshole that I have to deal with all the time.
Everything I bitch about. Yeah, like that's like you going it's like going to a detail shop and being like that customer, being like, what the fuck, man?
Uh, totally was. Alex, I am so sorry, man.
So, Dan and Dustin, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having us.
I'm gonna turn the mic over to you guys because you wanted to come on and kind of share. You guys are starting kind of a new training thing that I don't know anything about. So roll with it. Let's go, and then I'll ask you questions as we go along. I've got I love hearing about new stuff.
Awesome. So we've go back 20 years when I got into the industry. I've gone to tons and tons of trainings. I've worked on both sides of the aisle as a detailer going to trainings and as a trainer. Dustin, we've worked together for about 9 years now. He bought my business from me and just grew the heck out of it. And
Nice.
what we kind of saw was a lot of the trainings focus so heavily on the detailing side of the world. And most of the guys who are in those trainings, they already know how to detail, but they are the happiest and most content when they have a polisher in their hand. So
Exactly.
we were thinking, how can we make a detailing training that actually has like a lot of valuable business information that will actually help people be able to grow their business? And, through some trial and error and other trainings that we've done together, Dustin proposed that we bring people in to a day of the shop running. So part of the training consists of like going into a busy shop. He did close to $750,000 in gross sales with 3 employees and himself, and show the people, lift up the skirt and show the people some of what is actually going on in the business side of it. So not just in concept where we're going to stand up in front of you and run our mouth, but you'll
Right.
actually see how cars come in. You'll see how the employees work. You'll see the workflow, the checklists and the SOPs and all of those things that they use. So we make day one is just that. You come in and you observe, and we really dial into the business side. And then we have a business roundtable at the end of that day. And that is, everybody who is coming to the training can go to danwilliams.com. And I'm a certified Mike McAllowitz Fix This Next business coach, which goes hand in hand with what we're doing over here. But they can take their free business assessment, and that goes for anybody who's listening. And basically that side of it is we say, most customers' biggest problem, most business owners, I'm sorry, biggest problem is they don't know what their biggest problem is. So they run around trying to put out fires left and right. And this dials into your one specific vital need. And then we can address everybody's vital need after that. And then day number 2, Dustin, you go ahead and carry on with that part.
Yeah, so on that second day, I mean, don't get me wrong, we're going to go over detailing and chemicals and efficiency, and that's where I kind of started in my training was how do you snap out a car at a better quality in a shorter amount of time? Was like an efficiency guru is what I took myself as. And so we want to incorporate that. We want people to polish. We're going to teach wet sanding. We're going to teach some paint touch up. We're going to bring in other celebrity people in the industry. So it's not just Dan and I all the time. Like we have Ian from Auto Fiber coming to the next training. We've got Tom from Lake Country coming to the next training. And then we even had Shad, the IDA business, excuse me,
Chad,
president
yeah, Chad
from
Stoker.
last year. Yeah, he was out here with Jamie Gonzalez last year. So we're kind of trying to make a very cool training that people want to be at, but really rounding out what you kind of need in a detailing business. And one of those things was not just like the quiet shop that's empty and it's, 20 hours of talking to get a coating done when we need to kind of speed people up, but a lot of people don't know what a CRM is and they don't know what an SOP is. So like what you just say to me is like a standard operating procedure. And so
Yeah.
we're trying to really open up the business side because a lot of people are detailers gone business owner that don't know how to run a business. And so Dan and I's last few years was getting better and better at business. So we really drove that into it. But we didn't want to just have it be about pushing products on people or selling products to people. We just want to really dump knowledge of trial and error and success. And so that's what a lot of that second day is, going through a wash, clay seal, decon, kind of opening up the perspective to people who may not be as knowledgeable about those preparations, get into the polishing and the wet sanding if we happen to need it. But we try not to overcomplicate it. And so that's that second day of really kind of getting a full detail and progress done within check sheets. And um, then Sunday, we're kind of debating of having that third day. A lot of people kind of tried to like travel home, which is a
Yeah.
given, but maybe a business roundtable that next day to recap everything. So that's kind of the 2 day training on that part. I'll hand it off to you, Dan.
The one thing that we are offering as well is we're going to not only bring in some other people like Tom and Ian this time, but we also have a paint touch-up system that was developed by Jamie Gonzalez, and he'll be coming to some of the trainings with us, but he's got, he did $2.5 million last year and has 3 shops and mobile
Yeah.
guys, so it's and he's got kids
And a
also that
family.
dance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
It's
dance
hard
and
to do,
stuff,
man.
so
Yeah.
hard to get away.
Yeah.
But we're going to showcase his paint touch-up system, and I'll tell you what, probably the most interest that we have seen is for his paint
Part
touch-up
of that.
system.
Yeah.
And yeah, any of these guys who are putting ceramic coating on a car or paint protection film, you gotta do touch up those paint chips before you put that
Right.
over it.
Right.
So
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it was and it's kind of one of those like little tidbits as a business idea is that even not getting like the full paint bank, like Jamie actually taught us to like color, like take the body code and be able to mix up weights and get any custom color, which is amazing to do, even if you do it on a basic level. But it's like the small little upsell type of things for business to make more money. Because I never like to be the shop owner that seemed nickel and dime me. Like I don't want to upsell $50 for like an interior leather conditioner when like we
Right.
should be doing that in our detail anyway. When we have a problem like a headlight restoral, paint touch up, and those things,
Yeah.
it's just a way to have a one-stop shop to help protect the car. We're not trying to oversell it that the chip is gone. That's a different class of sanding and all that fun stuff. But to
Yeah.
just seal up the paint, prevent rust, help a customer, it's one of those things that it's actually taken quite a bit of traction and people wanting to come for that part of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely something that's a good selling tool, because one of the things that Noxie always does, the trainings that I've gone at his shop when he teaches rid sanding, right, is he's always talking about how, like, hey, for every scratch around the car, that's an extra $50, $75, $100, whatever you want to charge, that you can add on to the client. So kind of the same thing with the touch up paint. It's kind of the same thing, like, hey, you've got, I don't know, 10 little rock chips here, well, $25 a rock chip or something like that. And you made an extra $250 on, whatever job you're doing. So that's a pretty good way of selling something that seems really small, but at the end of the day could end up being a nice little add-on ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, and he even taught us of like degrees of it because us as perfectionists, as detailers, like I'm going to try and make that look like a body shop repair, and it's not
Yeah.
possible without a lot of good skill. But Jamie was able to teach us it's like just fill it in and then you're done. You want the next level of like fill it in, get some clear on it so it doesn't look like these matte dots of just paint on your paint system. And then there's that other degree of like some color and some clear and like knocking it down and trying to blend a little bit more
Right.
and adding different price points and expectations for our customers within that, that we didn't spend all day on this scratch chasing our ego, but you had different degrees of what correction we could offer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also like the premise that you guys are kind of doing of doing it in a working shop, because the one thing that I've always kind of said with business trainings that I feel like everybody is doing is it's the snooze fest, right? Like you're in a classroom setting kind of, in an empty shop sitting in chairs and somebody standing in front of you going like, "This is how you do business. Your business 101," whatever, and it's just like, when do we get to the polishing, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
the fact that you guys are kind of bringing them into a working shop, they can see how things are, talk to the customer, schedule it, ring it up through a CRM, go through the SOPs, and then, okay, now let's go work on the car. I think that's a really good kind of model because it doesn't have that snooze fest, of just sitting
Yeah.
there as somebody's preaching to you a business. And that's, the other thing too that I've always kind of thought when somebody says, "Oh, I'm a business trainer." Like, okay, cool. That worked for you in your shop in wherever, USA. Is it going to work in my shop, in Florida? Is it going to work for this guy in his shop? And, so that's the other thing that I always feel like is sometimes, so again, seeing it work in reality versus this is what I do, this is how I do it, I think is a real good model to teach people.
Yeah.
And
That's kind of
an
what we were.
interesting I'm sorry.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
an
No,
interesting
go ahead.
point too is like I am from owner's pride. But this is not necessarily you don't we're more than happy to work with anybody in
Right.
this in these trainings. It's not really any brand specific. Um and then probably the most valuable point of this whole darn thing is we're putting together a suite of SOPs and employee manual and like these things that you can have at least an outline
Like
of
some
what
actual pieces to take
that
with
you
you.
can yeah that you can
Right.
manipulate and implement for your business. These are the things that even guys who have been in business for 10 years, most guys, they do not have an employee manual. They do not have like SOPs written out for all, for all of their jobs that they have. And
Yeah.
this is these fundamentals of business are what I see over and over and over as being the biggest missing thing that there is for detailers.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, it's kind of always been said, you could be the greatest detailer in the world, but you're not profitable because you're, a shitty business person. Or you could be a great business person and make tons of money, but everybody's like, but he's a shit detailer, like,
Yeah.
but he's great at business. He knows how to get the people coming in, knows how to make the money, whatever. So, if you already think you're a great detailer, but your business is slacking, doing something like this is going to greatly benefit anybody, who attends. And that's again, I like this because, I have, plenty of friends who are doing, you know, wet sanding, paint correction, whatever, but a lot of trainings, but a lot of them aren't implementing business into it as a whole. And again, I think because a lot of times it becomes a snooze fest, or it's not the thing that most people want to learn because they're not thinking that. They're thinking like, oh, if I can wet sand, if I can paint correct, if I can, if you build it, they'll come kind of thing. But unfortunately, you have to have the business know how to be able to get them actually in, and then your skills take over from there. So I think that's really cool. I think it's a neat idea.
That's
Well,
it.
then, yeah,
It's
we appreciate
exciting.
that. We and it's kind of been the part that we get to like expand and learn, but then put real life into this training. That when I bought Dan's business 8 years ago, like I was a detailer for 9 years and never really thought about owning my own business, even though I detail on the side once in a while for extra cash. But I didn't know anything about the detailing business part or just business in general. So
Right.
that we had to take off a little bit once I started working for Owner's Pride for the while that I did as a representative. That really made me see the flaws of what we were doing. We learned CRMs and chasing leads and coddling leads and all these different things that really elevated our business. But why do we need to keep that a secret necessarily? And so in the last years, we've been building the paperwork and the check-in sheets and the checkout sheets. Like even when I went to get an oil change, they like took pictures on their iPad and they looked at damages and mileage. And I've had customers that like, do you need me to sign anything? Like you're taking my car, nearly met you. So it was that legitimacy, that experience. But why do I need to keep that paper that we designed a secret? So we want to
Yeah.
actually give people some assets, digital and physical. And we're working on like an actual like training platform, like a notebook. Like I have this back here, so that'll give you some rambling on. But like this is our handbook, but it's like spiraled. We want to do that for our training class, like all of our stuff that we're going to teach, and so you can go home and actually put it into premonition rather than being like they talked about a lot of good stuff, but I
Right.
don't remember all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think of that is something that's kind of cool because while they're there, they could maybe physically like write down some notes. And then if you're giving them a digital file, then they can go home and take the digital file and maybe edit it with the notes that they took or the things that, okay, well, I don't really do this, but I could do this. And then then they make, they're able to edit it to make their own form of SOP that then they can print out and give to their employees or
Yeah,
have for themselves. Yeah,
It's like
yeah, and
the
that's yeah,
productivity suite that you get is probably worth as much as the class is,
yeah,
because, that stuff didn't just fall into Dustin's lap, out of the sky.
yeah,
yeah, lots of hours of stuff. Even like general, like California would probably make a handbook compliant in most states because we get to have fun out here.
right,
But like even that was hours and hours of building, and then once we got it over to our HR, and another 800 or whatever for them to like inspect it, make it compliant, it was like hours and thousands of dollars. So it helps with detailers that would never think about that, let alone being like, okay, I need to stop everything to write down an SOP or a handbook. Like whenever I sit down, I get writer's block. Like
yeah,
you'll do 10 pages about washing a car or one full page about filling up the bucket with product and you haven't gotten anywhere. And
yeah.
so that's what really can help some detailers in this scenario is being able to actually get assets that can help them just skyrocket forward a little bit faster.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Um, so have you guys started these trainings yet, or are these gonna pop off soon, or how are you guys doing that?
Great, great question. So we did our first one last year, and then we kind of thought about it,
Got
and we
busy.
did yeah, and we did one a couple months ago, and we had some people come in for that, and Jamie Gonzalez was here. And then we just decided that we ha- everybody who's come to the training, like so other people from other companies who are, industry veterans, they every time that they come to our training, they're like, I've not been to a training quite like this. Like not to toot my
Toot the
own
horn.
horn here, but
Yeah,
we really are doing things a little bit different, with the busy shop side, with the business
right,
coaching aspect that's tied into it, and on the experience that we have. And so we started the Detailing Authority Academy page on Facebook. And if you haven't yet, please go there. We're going to keep that as an active group, for the coaching stuff. Not a group where people are going to go in there and slam each other. It's really just kind of focused on business stuff.
right.
And from there, we just, Dustin threw up some dates, and here's what's cool. It's not only just this detail training. We're also doing, wash clinics. We did one, 2 weeks ago for the Corvette Club of San Diego, or San Diego Corvette Owners Club.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We also offer this really unique, and you wouldn't think that this is a thing, but it actually is kind of like a very unique bespoke detail boot camp for, like, imagine that guy who's an affluent fella and they have a very custom car and they love that car. They can come in, we'll work with them to do a full decon, polish the car with them, and have them and us put ceramic coating on the car itself. I mean, we've already done one of these, and the people are very willing to pay the premium, the right customer, and it's a really
Right.
cool experience. The guy, he even went home and like took all of the concepts of Dustin's like carts and lights and everything and changed his whole garage to look like
Oh,
Dustin's
nice.
shop.
Yeah, so he was kind of, and those may not happen as often, and if they do, awesome. But it's like that one detailer that he's like, yeah, I have everything at home, like an enthusiast and really wants to
Yeah.
do it, but got a like hands-on professional training to because we even had a Corvette owner club guy. He's like, oh, I keep polishing my car, and what he was describing sounded like he kept polishing it too much that he made it fail. So being able to
Right.
teach people that you shouldn't keep polishing it and that stuff, but yeah, it was kind of a different aspect that we're trying to kind of open up the window for more wash clinics and detailing and stuff like that. So I mean, 4 or 5 years now that Dan and I have been doing these together and kind of evolving and being like, that was terrible and did not work well this time and works well the next time. So we get to kind of trial and error to a point with the core of what everyone really loves the most. We're just trying to adapt and have a better experience. Like we even have certain things that we were joking the other day. We were preaching about what we tell people, and it's like, man, we need to do that in our own marketing for this venture. So
Right.
we're trying to adapt and be like, yeah, we're not the best out there, but we're damn sure willing to learn and try and adapt to become better.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
And
that's
I think
cool.
you're probably not catching like a whole ton of attitude from us, you know? There's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's huge in its own right.
Yeah. Well, I think the attitude in a training has got to be, taken out. I mean, I've been fortunate the few trainings that I've been to for the couple of different people, everybody's gotten along. Everybody realizes that, regardless of what their skill level is they're all there to basically learn the same thing. They're at that time they are, at the same level. So yeah, I think the trainings are, um, puts everybody on an equal playing field in a sense, and you just have to have that mindset of going in of like, hey, I'm paying this much money to learn, so check the ego and the attitude at the door, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for sure. I think that they happen from time to time, but not too much anymore. I felt detailers, we all know we're artists and we have egos. I don't know if it's just because I'm not in the forums as much as I used to be, but I feel like
That's
it's kind of chilling out a little bit. But I am
I
not
don't
in the
think it
because
forums
is.
you're not
nearly.
on Facebook, brother.
It's not. It's not.
I'm just not in
Listen,
the forums.
there. I heard some drama beef of a couple of detailers locally the other day, and I was just like, God, okay, just gonna keep
Life's
my
too
head
short.
down and yeah, exactly. So let me ask you guys this. So I mean, obviously both of you guys are affiliated with Owner's Pride, but you said that this is something that is kind of separate from Owner's Pride. So I mean, are you guys going to eventually work in, like, maybe, I know you said you have Ian from Auto Fiber and was it Tom from Lake
Tom
Country?
from Lake Country,
Tom
yeah.
from Lake Country. I don't know Tom. I know
Their West
Super nice
Coast
guy.
training manager. I think he
I
may
know
have been
Scott.
newer
I
to
know
it.
Scott, and I know oh god, I'm drawing a blank. Tem is the new main
Pender
guy, I
something.
think. Yeah.
Where
But
I
I mean,
can't
are you?
remember where Tom was before, but he's been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah. Are you guys going to, like, kind of open this up and kind of bring in other, brands that, if somebody wants to come in and, hey, we've got a compound and polish, we'd love to partner up with you guys and do a training on our, or even just keep it completely wide open where you have a variety of maybe different brands, and then people that come to the training can kind of pick and choose what they want to try or what they're comfortable with.
My
Yeah, I
first inclination with that is that so we've always preached it that like without wasting money as a detailer to try 10 rinseless washes
Yeah.
and 10 compounds. Like there's in my shop we have a couple of tools in the back of our closet that we need for that random paint system or something that won't finish down. But generally that's picking one line so that it's part of the reason that we still have Owner's Pride products there. Yes, we would be open to other product lines if they wanted it that, but I wouldn't want to have too many at one class. It's like
Gotcha.
you finally talk that customer into a ceramic coat, not talk them into it, but talk to them about a ceramic coating, and then you're going to throw them a curveball of like a whole different structure, and this one's not warranted, and this is like myself. I would rather keep it to one at a time, but I'm open to other things.
Yeah. No, I got you. Like I said, I was just curious because, again, like you said, you're it's separate from Owner's Pride. You're not necessarily targeting owner's pride installers for this. You kind of want to open it up to everybody. So, having at least maybe, oh, well, this one's a sponsored by owner's pride, or this one's sponsored by Rupes, or this one's sponsored by,
Yeah.
Oberk, or this one's sponsored by whatever, right? Like,
Say,
just
anybody out there interested, contact us and let's talk.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we
Yeah.
wanna help detailers. Like, at the bottom line is, we wanna help detailers grow their business, and it's true. If you're a product hopper, that's the best piece of advice probably that I got in detailing was really early on from Joe Fernandez in West Covina, California, Superior Shine, and I would every product that came out, a new compound, a new pad, a
Yeah.
new machine, I was like, "Joe, do I need to have this? Do I need to have this?" And he said, "Find a company that you like the products, the culture, the branding, and make yourself the best with it you can." So if you've already found, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I listen, I'm definitely that way, but you know,
It's a good question.
I
It really
definitely
is.
have a few fallbacks because different paint systems sometimes works on 9 out of 10 cars won't work on that
Yes.
10th one,
Yes.
so you got to go and
And as
grab a
much,
different.
yeah, as
In
much
my
as we
detailing,
have our system, like we have, I mean, I've got some hyper polish, I've got some Oberk, I've got some Koch Chemie, because you get that random car that like it
Yeah,
finishes down, but I need more cut in one stage, and the customer can't go higher in price. It's thin paint, whatever scenario. That
yeah,
we still have those end stops for what we need. But a lot of it, especially training new guys that I'm not on the floor much anymore as a detailer, that the systematic part of a chemical line does help people that don't know all of the little end stops that you need
yeah,
that the veterans do.
right. I gotcha.
if I'm going in for a company to do a training, literally the first thing I do when I walk into somebody's shop is I pull all of their products off the shelf and just put one line of products on the shelf because, you don't really want your employees, especially if you start scaling and you have
Yeah,
employees, you don't
yeah,
need them making those
yeah.
decisions. You
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the whole reason Rupes came out with the system was so that when you have employees, it's blue bottle, blue pad, yellow bottle, yellow pad. I
Yep.
remember when we first started using them at the car wash, that was the greatest thing ever because, a lot of times, our guys were used to using rotary buffers, and it's, we got, every guy liked a different thing. So we're buying all this different shit off of, the Carbright truck or the Pro truck or the CarChem truck or the Automagic truck or whatever, And so when we bought into the Rupes system, and it was like, look, here, we're gonna make it super easy. We're gonna give you a machine, that's not gonna damage cars as much. We don't have to pay for paint jobs and stuff. And here's a system. Blue pad, blue bottle, green pad, green bottle, yellow pad, yellow bottle. So it makes it a lot easy when you have a system like that. So yeah, Dan,
Yeah.
I can definitely understand, just kind of, especially if you got employees trying to find one brand or one system that works and then keep it simple, stupid, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's part of it. To even go into the next part is the SOP part. Like
Uh-huh.
we try not to cut you off, by the way, but
No, no, you're
we
good.
really want to have that position that like myself, Dan and I've been pushing on that goal of getting me out from behind the polisher and into the office to run the business.
Yeah.
And not so easily done, but a lot of that is if you don't have systems, you don't have trainings, how do you put yourself as a detailer into your people? And so we're trying to really round that picture out because if we didn't have that kind of angel on shoulder saying that we need to as like a business mentor, that we we would have still been polishing cars. I actually injured myself last summer. I could have put our business down if we didn't have trainings
Oh
and
wow.
people in place.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing. And to kind of round it with the chemicals, it's way less mistakes. We even put it on our shelf as like order of detailing a car. And
Yeah.
it's simple, stupid stuff, but it's
Yeah.
the best kind of stuff.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let me ask you the magic question that everybody who's listening to this podcast is gonna want to know is what's all this gonna cost me as a detailer to come to a training event with you guys?
So where it's $999,
Oh,
and
it's a
like
nice
I say,
price.
I'm telling you, even with the suite of business suite that you take home
Yeah.
is gotta be worth uh, uh, three
Wow.
quarters of that by itself.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even fathom because Dustin did a lot of this with his lawyer, and like, and we use the same lawyer, so I know I know he's super
And
expensive.
it happened because we were not as compliant. So we had to
Yeah.
get through some trenches and get
Right.
more compliant and birth the book and different things that we have in place. And that's also what we're trying to help curve within this
Yeah.
training at that price point is a lot of the mistakes that we had to get through without people doing that. So we have found that that's a pretty good price point for what we're offering knowledge, let alone assets
Yeah.
after.
No, I mean, I think that's a really good price because most trainings that I've been to or feel that are, you know, on a level of legitimacy are usually in that $1,200 to $1,500 range, right? And then of course, then you got another $1,200 to $1,500 in airfare, hotel, food, and whatnot for the weekend. I feel like those trainings that are in that $300 to $700 range are like, oh man, what are you really getting for that? So I think you guys have kind of hit like that real nice sweet spot. It's especially at 9.99, right? Like you could have said $1,000, right? But 9.99, it's the whole mentality thing, right?
That's
Like
that's
I
part of the
9.99
know.
code.
sounds
That's part of the training too.
right, right. It sounds better, right? Like like oh man, it's not $1,000,
And,
it's a dollar short, but yeah, no, I like it.
and even like I mean, you get to bring your vital need to the table too, and we're going to discuss that with you. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of the business coaching that I actually offer, on a separate entity, but sort of. But Dustin, I think, is going to be doing that with me too at any bit that he would care to, because he's
Yeah.
got he's got the skills and the chops, and we can work together, and it's awesome.
Well, and I'm sure that both of you have seen it that oh man, I did blanked what the fuck I was gonna say. That was even one that I could like ramble on for the entire time for it. What the hell was I gonna say?
Yeah. Don't worry, it happens to me all the time.
You're like, at
See
least
see
we
people
know, but we have no
see
clue.
right, right.
Yeah,
See
yeah, I
see
got it.
everybody
I
who's
got it.
listening to it? Okay, alright. Go
Exactly.
go before you
So
forget it.
part of it is, I mean, you guys have been to trainings that you get to kind of like be buddy buddy, like who you met at SEMA, who you met at MTE, who you met at the training, like you become in like a little brotherhood for it. And
Yeah.
that even though you're not paying me for coaching down the road and these things like that, like the people that have been to the trainings with us, they call me like, here's an answer for you. Like, let's catch up, see how family's doing. So you almost get like this ongoing database of like, hey, can I call you and like rely on you in this situation? And Ricky Bordeaux is one of those more favorite people that's done that, that he's in a tight spot with a customer. And we've been through those to a point that we can just really help people get through that, and even just being able to call and vent because
Yeah.
wife and all that doesn't want to listen to it all the time. So
Yeah.
that's kind of that brotherhood that it brings in. We actually spend quite a bit of time from like the first night, and we go to a little taco shop and brewery over here, and then like we even went to a hockey game last time. Like we really try
Oh,
and hang
nice.
out with the people that we're there with. We even
Yeah.
like try and get them in the same hotel to hang out with, because in class you have a lot of knowledge, but like what you like to do and what's worked and hasn't worked and all these successes and failures, let alone just being able to talk about what you're passionate about for a few
Yeah.
days that weekend, that we
Yeah.
really liked that part of the trainings. And I think that's what really started it before we like got the wheels going. It's just we liked doing this.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts to the trainings that I've gone to is like that networking camaraderie afterwards, like when you just had this mountain of information dumped on you throughout the day and you're trying to process it and then you go sit down at a restaurant or you just go crash at the hotel and it's like then you're kind of you know bouncing ideas off of everybody in the training. What did you like about it, or how are you going to do this, or oh, I got an idea, when I go home I'm going to take this and I'm going to do that. Like that to me is always kind of the more fun, I feel like. So I like that. I like that like you guys take them out to dinner, go to a hockey game, something like that, because then you can kind of build that camaraderie, that broness or whatever, and then
Yeah.
it open it also opens everybody up to, like, feel a little more comfortable to, like, interact and talk and ask questions because, again, right, like, that's the one thing that I feel like a lot of detailers are, they don't wanna sound or stupid or come off like maybe they don't have the experience, so they're probably not asking the questions that they would normally ask in the beginning of this training, right? So you get them feeling comfortable and opened up, and then they're gonna ask the questions, and then they get a better experience out of the training.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know, I think from doing a podcast for these years, it's really helped in these training situations of being able to, kind of lead the group and get people to open up by asking them questions, just like you do
Yeah,
for a podcast. And I think by the time we have just the introductions in the beginning, that everybody is really kind of pretty comfortable with each other, and we kind of expose a few maybe personal things about them so that they really do, like you said, open up. And
yeah.
well, we've
Yeah.
really, as a matter of fact, almost every training class you go to has that one guy who already knows everything and they want to tell you. There's usually, but I don't think in the last two classes, the last
We
class,
haven't had
I
any.
don't think in the
No,
last class we had we had anybody like that.
Yeah.
no, no.
Maybe
It's been a
another
little
one
while.
before.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
Yeah.
If humor
It
can
does.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that sorry, wife's asking me what's going on. So
No, you're right.
one thing that with even talking about what Dan was just saying is that because I've been in plenty of trainings and you're like, oh, I'm Dustin from OCD and from California or Colorado or whatever. But Dan's like, what's the first car you washed and how'd you wash it? And so then
Yeah.
he does that within an intro around the room and it just gets people talking, kind of joking around and being like, yeah, I probably fucked up that paint job I washed the first time compared to what
Oh,
we know
yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And so it really is opens it up in more than just like, hey, will you say your name and where you're from? And then we're like, let me get onto this. So we've tried to really been like, Dan, that was not good last time, or that was great last time. So we really get
Yeah.
to kind of ongoingly try and get better.
Yeah. I always kind of feel sorry for the last car that they did and excited for the next car that I'm doing because even now I still feel like every time you do a car, you're getting a little bit better. You're getting a little bit
Yeah.
better. You're getting a little bit better. I mean, it might be like super micro, as far as getting better, but I've definitely have done a car that I thought was great, and then I do the next one and I'm like, "Oh, this one's better than the one I did last week?" And then I think back to the ones that I did like 10 years ago when I left the car wash and started this, and I'm like, "Oh my god, like how did I even get paid for that?"
Yeah. Or how
So
much
yeah.
paint I took off a system
Yeah, yeah,
polishing
exactly.
my ego.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's the one thing that I've definitely over the past, like, probably year or 2 is really worked on just my technique of polishing to make sure that I'm not cooking a panel, fluffing the paint, um, overworking it, to where I'm knocking off too much paint or something like that, so I really kind of feel like I've gotten a lot better with just my technique over the last year or 2 that I'm pretty comfortable with paint, uh, not doing damage.
Well,
Yeah.
Alex, how do you think that we can get the guys excited for the business side of it? If we've kind of established that
Yeah.
that's really the missing link in what is holding all of these guys back from growing.
Well, listen, I mean, I've never attended a business class because, again, I think, it's news fest. Um, but I really like the idea that you guys are doing. I like the idea that it's walking into a working shop. It's not a closed down shop. Nobody's there or anything like that. It's legitimately. I mean, I can say some of the best maybe business I've learned was that exact same thing. When I first met Aaron Knox and went to his shop, not for a training. I went to Reds and to hang out with him and talk with him on a Friday while him and Woo were working, and there's customers pulling up in cars and getting to watch how he does his sales pitch, how he talks to people on the phones, and then he'll come and explain like what he just did. Like I think that's things that a lot of times people don't get. So I think the fact that you guys are doing that, like, hey, look, we're going to go talk to this client. You're standing, within earshot to hear everything that Dustin's going to tell that client, and then come back and be like, this is why I said this. This is why I said that, and then show them physically how you're going to put it in a CRM. Dude, I mean, I think that's perfect. I mean, it's you got to get people, if people are going to do a training or people are going to go to a training, and you can give them some business and you can also give them some wet sanding and paint correction. I think you're facilitating more than what a majority of other trainings are doing, because they might do a little bit of business and a whole lot of paint correction and ceramic coating, or paint correction and wet sanding or whatever. But if you guys are doing a day of this and then a day of that, and then if they really want a third day, it sounds like you guys are open for it. If not, then it's, hey, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Go home and make some business, kind of thing.
We're just gonna go get some golf in on Sunday because it's sunny San Diego.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
bro.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
but no,
there's ongoing support, too.
yeah.
Like anybody could hit us up, and more than happy to answer questions. Or if they wanted to dive deeper into one-on-one coaching, we could absolutely do that too. And Alex, you should go to my website, dannwilliams.com, and take your free business assessment. And I would love
I
to.
it's probably gonna be super shitty. I'm terrible at business.
It's a very easy questionnaire
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
take
very
10 minutes.
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll see how
But it
bad
like
I am.
literally it called out what I was suffering with when I did it for
Yeah.
Dan when he was starting and stuff. So it's like even just a little bit of like, holy shit, this is it. And not all of these other busy work things that we're
Yeah.
doing. It's just let's pinpoint and focus on those type of things. And we're realistic that like I'm still learning in business, the
Yeah.
8.5 years in and trying to get better. That we're not afraid to talk about our mess ups and our successes of what has
Oh, yeah.
gotten us here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just something different that we were excited about, and it's fun too. And I think that that's where we really have people that enjoy what we're doing is because we've had people that come to multiple trainings over the years,
Yeah.
even if they're a veteran and even if they got pretty much the same class, there's always that little nugget, that
There's
little aha
always
moment you
yeah.
take.
There's always
And
something you learn.
one of my favorite parts is like going home, like ready to get it, like stoked when you're like, I remember when I first learned coatings and I went home from the shop that we had learned at and I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this is going to be, and when we could put that into people, especially if you're in like a business lull and not feeling that
That
100%, you
burnout.
need to grind it out and you're in that
Yeah.
burnout and you kind of reignite some of that fire and get things going. That's one of the cooler, it's like giving the customer that they're like, you made my day by this detail. When you can see a detailer and a friend, that brotherhood, and he succeeds, like,
Yeah.
F yeah, that's awesome. And so
Right,
that's what
exactly.
we like to, is about our, kind of aftermarket industry that we've been in. It's like really just helping people.
Yeah, and I agree with you, like, taking the same training over, or multiple times isn't a bad thing, because, again, you have to remember you are getting so much knowledge dumped on you in a short period of time that you can't retain it all.
No.
Right? And so if you go back again, like, yeah, it might be the same, like, "Oh, here's Dan talking about this again. Here's Dustin talking about that again." And then it's like, "Whoa, hang on a second. I don't remember that from the last time I was here."
Yeah.
And it's just that little bit extra. Two people that I always kind of cheerlead on here, because they're always cheerleading for me, is Kyle Camus and Jerry Grant. And I love what those guys do, because every time I've talked to those guys all year long will budget a percentage of their work for trainings for the next year.
Yeah.
And ever since they've told me that, I try to, especially when we do or when I do a training episode or talk about trainings, I always try to, reiterate that is that's there shouldn't be, well, I can't afford to go to a training anymore because if you take, you know, for just $5 a day, like, you could go to a training, next year. And but that might be the sacrifice, right? Is you pull a certain dollar figure, a certain percentage out of every job for the whole year.
Just got
And
Dan excited.
right.
Me
And
too.
you get 3 grand in your little piggy bank by the end of the year, and you can go do $1,000 training with you guys, and then that's also going to cover your airfare, your hotel, your food, right?
And
Um,
that's your vacation write-off for the year.
right, exactly. Um, so yeah, that's
Well,
what I would say.
I got 2 things to say. So,
Okay.
first of all, Kyle Kamas, that is a solid dude right there.
He is.
I think
Solid
he
dude.
likes a post before I post it.
I know.
I
I
don't know.
know.
How does he even know?
Dude,
Oh,
I'll in that mobile tech crew or whatever, I'll make a post, and I'm 3 hours ahead of him. I'll make a post at like 7 o'clock in the morning. At like 7:02, it's approved. I'm like, I think he's the only one that's really approving stuff.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that guy's
Yeah, I
awesome. We
always
went to a
enjoy Kyle.
Colorado Avalanche game when I did that training up at the Rupes facility a few months ago,
Nice.
and we got to really just hang out and bond. And honestly can't say nothing but super good things about that guy. But
Oh
then
yeah.
here
He
is
just never
another
answers his
thing.
phone when I call him is all. That's my only
No,
bad thing. Other
hey,
than that,
me
I love that
neither,
guy.
actually. But here's the thing. Something that you'd said when you were talking about not going to these trainings. And
Yeah.
there's this saying in business, what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
Meaning you kind of unless you're trying, you've got to continue learning and growing in business. So the time that you the time you start thinking that you know everything, that's when you're
Ooh,
just
that's when the ego karma comes in and bites you.
Yeah.
Like, I got to figure it out. And then you're like, wow, we just had our worst month ever right after that.
Right.
I
Well, that
learn
was
stuff
my
at every one of these classes. Like even
yeah.
no matter which side of the equation I'm on, I go home with something else.
Before I ever went to one, I was that guy. I was like, why do I really need to go? Like, what am I really gonna learn that I don't already know? Right. And then I went to one and I was like, oh shit, I don't know anything. And I just learned a whole lot, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's, sometimes it's not 100% the actual training class. It's that networking afterwards because I feel like that is a training too. You're learning from other detailers, of how they do things and what they do. And to where now, like, even if it's just, Noxie's not that far from me, so it's a quick, easy trip. Even if it's just going up to his place, once a year and retaking a training with him, or hopefully going to go back up to Gloss University this year and hang out with Maddie and Dave and see what they've got going on up there. Um, and do because we're doing something with Aquatech up there with them. Um, it's now I look at it and when people are like, I don't want to go to training, I don't, and I look at them and go like, why? Like, how are you not going? Like, just pick one, pick a good one. And that's my other thing is pick a good one. I always try to tell people like, is vet your trainer, training person, like your client vets you, right? So these people need to go to you. And again, I think you guys have, Dan, I've known you for a number of years. Super smart guy. I think you definitely have the resume for it, but again, like I feel like if somebody's interested in your guys' training, they need to reach out and say, "Hey, look, like what are you guys doing? What am I going to, end up learning and this and that?" Because again, I feel like sometimes and I don't want to knock detailers, but this is probably going to come off as a knock to detailers. But sometimes I feel like you can tell when detailers get a little slow and they need some money, that all of a sudden, hey, this weekend for $700, I'm doing a training at my shop, and it's like, buddy, you're asking the same questions that I'm asking in the same Facebook groups I'm asking, but now you're going to be a trainer for the weekend for $700, So,
It that
you know,
do your due diligence with everything.
exactly.
How many
Yeah.
of these frickin' marketing people do you see out there and they're like, "Come work with me. You're gonna make $10 million in
Yeah.
10 days and have 10 million
I'll get you
Lamborghinis and 10 million
30
titties."
extra ceramic coatings this month and
Yeah.
yada, yada, yada. Yeah. Right. But no, I mean, but again, Dan, I've known you for a long time. Dustin, I don't really know you, but if you're affiliated with Dan, I feel like you guys, definitely have the resume. For me, it's that random guy that all of a sudden is in groups posting up that he's doing a training, on the third weekend of whatever. And he's never heard of him before kind of thing.
And
Yeah.
and so that's a great kind of question though. Why take a trading class from us? I started a detailing business in 2004. Um, I went to rehab my second time for drinking in 1998, June 3rd, 1998. By the time I got into my early 30s, I started a detailing business. I grew that for 12 and a half years. I did well enough to buy a house here in San Diego, and I'm sitting pretty in that. Dustin bought that business from me as a functioning business and just like hit the multiplier button. I went to work for a company in the industry, worked my way up from a rep to the vice president, co-vice president of business development, got plucked from that company to start to with the startup of Owner's Pride and had an equity position offered to me. And um, eh, s- so, yeah, there's definitely a certified business coach. We've
Yeah.
there it's and then
Yeah.
Dustin, he's like really since he bought that business, I mean, he's really, really grown it and put in some of those fundamentals that I hadn't even really thought of at that point. But I've just really applied myself to learning the business side because I realized pretty early on that that is what everybody was missing. And I was missing a lot of it even in my early days.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that was something that like got me to a better position, and that was Dan taking on that business role and education and breathing it into the people that he's working with and mentoring, and being a rep for Owner's Pride really had me learning that and breathing it and becoming a different detailer. Because for a long time, even the first few 4 years of business, we were still doing fine and we had some business things to us, but we didn't really start hitting the ground running. And so, even some of my histories, I've been detailing for 17 and a half years. That first 8 or 9 was just for shops and dealerships and car washes and different things that we gained knowledge. But the last 4 years is where we've really been able to do it. And San Diego is not for the weak-hearted. There's a million detailers out here, and there's a lot of people with deep pockets that can market. That's like corporate money. It's not, you know,
Yeah.
Wharton small family money. But I think we're making some waves out here, and we're in the trenches and figuring it out. And when you are in those type of scenarios, that I think that that's where we can really teach others to not make the mistakes and maybe have faster successes of what we've been up to. And I even there's that point of imposter syndrome. Like, we don't try and bring an ego to this. Like, we're not saying we're better than any detailers out there, but we
Yeah.
are making this a functionable shop, like we've talked about. That it's tried and true. It's not that midnight infomercial that you buy
Yeah.
into and then see you later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and I mean, I think you can kind of tell when people are genuine enough that they're like, we want to help grow or expand the industry or a person, um, versus the person that's just about, I'm here to make a buck, right? And I think, you guys are definitely um in that category of just wanting to grow. Now, obviously, nothing's for free, right? So you're gonna make a buck, but again, you got it's not like you're just taking the money and giving you whatever, right? Like sometimes, and that's the thing I don't think people understand is, that $999, like, they should be able to go home on Monday, and if they implement and learned what they got from you guys in 2 days, they'll make that $999 back on Monday, for the most
So,
part.
just that office suite that they're gonna take
Yeah,
home is
right.
Yeah. But even if you got a little bit more confident in like how to talk about a coding or not, or just
Exactly.
make your customer experience better than maybe other competition in town, even if it's a slow market or the crazy big markets that we've dealt with, that's what you're going to take home. And yeah, one
Yeah.
coding, you could literally cover
'Cause
it.
I think a lot of detailers don't know how to talk to clients. I mean, even myself sometimes. I mean, I've done customer service for over 30 years between running car washes and then having my own business. Sometimes I get a little tripped up when I'm talking to a client, and I'm like, "Shit, what am I gonna what am I trying to say to this guy?" Kind of thing. But I think there's a lot of detailers that don't really know how to talk to a client, and it's funny because I catch myself doing it, and I've heard a number of people in this industry say it, is you can't talk to a customer like they're another detailer. So you can't use words like emulsifiers and surfactants and aluminum dioxide and you know diminishing abrasives, and the client, huh, what, like, they don't understand that. So and that's I think a big problem with detailers is they don't know how to talk to clients like their clients. They want to talk to them like a detailer. So again, going to a business class and learning how to speak to somebody, and and again, I feel like sometimes detailers, and myself included, I've been known to do it too, is overtalk the client. You got to elevator pitch them, and it's, hey, and it's from floor 1 to floor 2. You're not going to the penthouse suite with them. You got one floor of elevator ride to, this is why, kind of thing. So yeah.
yeah, we cover all of this. I'm excited right now, just like, "Ah,
Yeah,
I
we
wanna."
saw like
Nice.
5.5 weeks or something. I'm excited.
So how many actual classes or trainings do you guys plan to do a year? I mean, is this something you guys are going to crank them out like every month, or is this going to be like a couple of times a year? Like, what are your plans?
Quarterly right now. That way it was gapped, and we kind of even tried to look at our schedules, but like, like I'm not going to book a training during SEMA because most
Right.
people will probably be there. And so we're
Yeah.
trying to look at that part, but we have April 25th to 27th, and then what was the other, August 8th to 10th, and I think December 5th through the 7th was the three of them. If
Okay.
those are right, I'm proud of myself. But
Hey, and if those are filling up, then there could
yeah,
be room for more. But like I say, we're
How
also doing a couple of other projects with car clubs, and we have a lot of connections to the car community here in San Diego. The car culture, it's been
how
SoCal car
many
culture is big.
how many students or attendees or whatever you guys doing in every training? I mean, where are you capping it at?
we try not to do more than 10.
Okay.
And even when we have like Tom and Ian and different people there to kind of help, but it just gets a little out of control. It's kind of like my daughter at swim class without a one-on-one coach with like 7 kids just kind of kicking
Yeah.
around and stuff. So we try and keep it to a point that it's still intimate enough that you can take something from it. You don't get the chatter in the background and stuff like that, but usually 10 or less.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a pretty sweet number. It usually seems like 4 to 5 per trainer,
Yeah.
is a good kind of sweet spot for classes. Any plans to take the show on the road, or are they all gonna be in San Diego?
I think we could. I mean, we've had someone ask us about that recently. They just can't get
In
away from the
Virginia.
shop. We'd probably have
Mhm.
to charge extra for it, obviously. Um, but that's kind of where Dan's background of a lot of his aftermarket in the corporate industry and stuff like that, that he did do traveling on. So we're not opposed to it. We would have to make sure that we have our A game together so that we don't not have the same experience of, our shop here and things like
Yeah.
that. But
Good. And it's
bring me
not
a
too
cool place to travel to, and I'll get paid to
good,
travel there.
but it's not too shabby to come out to San Diego. Some people actually even come here for vacations and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We do
No,
like
no.
that part of selling, especially the winter training. It's like get out of the cold, kind
Yeah.
of get, reset and stuff like that. But so far here, Maybe a bigger training facility.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know anything about winter, so I wouldn't know wouldn't know what getting out of winter would be like. So
Yeah, I came from
usually,
Utah and Colorado, so I know it, but I don't miss it.
usually, anytime I'm going somewhere, it's into winter. It feels like.
Yeah.
I mean, it was already. I think it was like 80 something today. Thankfully, the humidity is not as high right now. It's still somewhat comfortable.
Where are you at in Oklahoma?
No, I'm in
Florida.
Orlando.
Oh, okay.
Come on, you know where I'm at.
It started with an O.
Yeah, it started with a no.
I just fell apart from there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you coming on doing this. Thank you for reaching out. I'm always Dan. I'm always down to promote your stuff. I mean, you've been good to me over the years, so anytime. And again, you guys hit me right when I needed a guest, so this was awesome. Um, so for anybody who is now listening to this is interested, is there a website? Is there like where do they go to find out wherever if you guys want to give out your whatever the handles?
So we have my website for taking your free business assessment, DANNWilliams.com. Dan so nice, they added me twice, DanWilliams.com. And then on Facebook, we have the Detailing Authority Academy page. It's a group. Get in there, like it. Feel free to make some posts. And that's where you can find all the information to sign up. There's a QR code, I believe, in there. And then for the people who are signing up, we're going to have an event page made so they can all kind of stay together and communicate on there. Dustin.
Nice.
Yeah, and then my business is officialcaliforniadetailing.com for the website, official_California_detailing for Instagram. And that's where without having more platforms to share stuff on and more projects to do as a business owner, we do post through that and kind of tag at the shop and things like that. But yeah, we can get you a link and a QR code for this episode. It'll take them right to like a payment link and information about what we're doing. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to send me the website link or something like that, I'll add it in the show notes. So if somebody's working and don't
Yeah.
have the time to write it down, they can just go into the show notes and click the link, and it'll take it right to them. Listen, I'm excited for you guys. Let me see how my schedule goes. I wouldn't mind trying to come out and maybe later in the year. If
That'd be great.
I can scrounge together that $999 I'm going to need.
Get you out there to teach
Yeah,
part of it.
I'd love to come out and experience it and see. So I'm gonna see what I can do on my end. But yeah, definitely, dude. I think it's exciting. I really, again, I truly love the concept of being in a working shop. I think that's a great way to learn. I mean, yeah, sometimes you do want that closed down, when you're getting into the nitty gritty of it, but to actually see how it works and see how it runs, so that then you can take it back and implement it. I think it's a great, system. And again, if anybody else is doing it, they're not doing it well enough for me to know about it. So I think you guys are probably the first one. I'm going to say you guys are probably the first one that's doing it that way. So
Yeah.
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's good to hear too that we're not throwing out too crazy of ideas, but I appreciate you having us
Yeah.
on
No.
and can't wait to get
Great.
you out here to SoCal.
Yeah, we'll try and do something. I've always wanted to go to California, so we'll see.
Come on
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Over, I
Do it.
guess.
All right, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a
Thanks.
good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, don't go anywhere.